What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Average American Podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Tate. The podcast for the average American, by the average American. Boy, did I feel fucking average today. Let me tell you, work was shit. But I'm not going to dig into my personal issues with my job or my life. I'm here to talk about social issues that affect us all. Very, very important, serious social issues. Let me do that more with my eyebrows. Alright. That's probably enough. No, seriously though. I think today, just lately, it's obviously there's been a lot to talk about. But I don't think I'm going to dig into any of the current stuff. I think I'll save that for the episode I'm going to do tomorrow. Or fuck it, maybe I will, I don't know. But what I want to start with, at least, is I have a real problem with this ever-growing movement, if you will, of socialism. I guess, I listen to Milton Friedman and Thomas Sowell too much, or anybody else with half a fucking brain who knows anything about history. But socialistic societies over the course of history have always failed. And then they always turn into, you guessed it, communism. That's always how it goes. You start out socialist, everybody's a hippie, everybody love everybody, right? Jackie Moon, ELE, everybody love everybody.
Hey, I got a ring up here too. Mine says love. Think about that. Everybody love everybody! Come on!
And so, I think there's this kind of point where, like, you're struggling in your life. And I went through it, and that's why I disagree with this so vehemently. But there's a point in your life where you struggle, and you think, like, people have it better than me. And it's like, why do they have it better than me? And, I'm working hard, or I'm trying my best, and, I feel like I should have what they have, and I don't, and that doesn't seem fair, and it's everyone else's fault that I'm failing, or the system, it's not even the people around me, but the system that I've been placed in is the reason that I'm failing. And don't get me wrong, there are faults with the system, and the system doesn't always work the way it should, or, doesn't represent fair opportunity to everyone. But then again, I think that's kind of the purpose of life. You work hard, and my parents struggle with that. My father especially, who worked hard his whole life and did what he's supposed to do, and this, that, and the other, and life has still kind of found a way to fuck him. I think he's got a second opportunity here. That's something we talked about when he recently visited. But regardless, that's the name of the game. Is like there are peaks and there are valleys, and you just ride it with whatever it has, and hopefully you sustain a valley that isn't real low. Like your low valley is like, oh, well, we're not going to be able to vacation this year. You hope that's your valley. It's like, oh, I have more important things to take care of. I can't go on vacation this year. Not like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to eat. Like, obviously, other people's valleys are much lower than other individuals. But I thought there was a really good thing that I saw just a few hours ago, and I didn't get to see who it was. I'm pretty sure it was probably posted on X. Oh, excuse me. Oh. And it was someone saying socialism is the idea. I'll put it in there. Hold on, I think actually I can pull it up. And I'll put it on screen too for people to see. Let me go into my gallery here. Yeah, right there, first one. It says, socialism promises equality. Then the equality comes. Everyone equally poor except the leaders. Bear with me. Free market promises opportunity. The opportunity comes. Some get rich, most improve, and the poor have paths upward. I'll take unequal prosperity over equal poverty any day. and that's by Magate Wade. I want to say that's her name. I don't know if that's 100% her name. She is a African woman, I believe. So I could be getting that wrong. And like I said, I'll put it up here over my face at some point in the video while I'm talking about this. But I just think that's such a good point to be made. You know, I'll take the opportunity to build myself up over someone else, you know, profiting or getting off of my labor and the hard work that I put on my back and what I do every day when I go to work. You know, me and my wife were talking about it when we went to dinner. We went and celebrated. She just got a promotion at her job. You know, congratulations to her. She's fucking awesome. So she earned that. And I couldn't be more proud of her for that. And it's, you know, it's the biggest step up in her career so far. And I think that's fucking awesome, man. And I love that for her and I love that for us. But it's like, you know, 10 years ago, we struggled to pay rent, and we really weren't financially stable until about 4 or 5 years ago. I would say 4 years ago now, it's been, that we created financial stability. So the early part of my 20s and her 20s fucking sucked. You know, you don't have experience, you don't have life experience, you don't have wisdom. You know, you kind of, like I said, you think the world's against you, you think like all these problems, and you're like, oh goodness, somebody's out to get you. The world is like holding you down. It's the fucking man's fault. It's rich people's fault. Eat the rich, eat the billionaires. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and argue that, you know, people don't harbor resources and wealth to like hold control over it, but that's always the way it's been. I don't, you know, and the reality is that socialism only gives them, socialism and then communism is usually what it devolves into, only gives them a stronger hold on the hammer, so to speak. And then everyone turns into a nail. And they, you know, with this capitalistic system, we have to find a way to include some elements of socialism, I think. Because while socialism as a system is abhorrent, in my opinion, there are ingredients of socialism that are important, right? The one that's always commonly used is, you know, firefighters, but police are the same thing. You know, I don't think inherently the idea of food stamps and Medicaid, affordable housing, like stuff like that, I don't think they're inherently bad ideas, but they're so poorly fucking mismanaged and so poorly fucking done that, like, as an individual who contributes to something and gets nothing from it, that's kind of frustrating. And that's putting it politely. It is really frustrating, actually. I hate it. I hate the fact that I can never benefit from that to, like, move myself forward. Like, I pay in on these taxes to these social programs that have taken from me, but I can't qualify for Medicaid because I make too much money, because I fucking work and take care of myself. But I don't have health insurance because I couldn't really afford it. It would take too much money out of I wouldn't be able to save money, wouldn't be able to do anything else. So, like, I combat that by going to the gym, exercising, taking care of myself, taking vitamins, supplements, all kinds of stuff so I can try to keep myself very healthy. And even then, it's not a guarantee, you know. I'm just taking a chance all the time that I'm not going to get injured to a point where it's, like, really a problem. And thankfully, the only times I really probably get injured is at work. It's the only time it's really happened to me. So, you know, workman's comp or, you know, business insurance. Good Lord. I tell you, today whooped my ass. But either way, you know, I think that all that stuff should be accessible to everyone. But with the amount of fraud and waste that goes on in our government, there's no actual reason that we shouldn't have free healthcare. Like I said, socialism as an entire system, everything being socialistic is stupid. But some socialist programs or social programs in general to help people when they get down or to make life easier for people, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, free healthcare is a good idea. But unfortunately, that would limit the amount of money that healthcare would make. So then they're like, fuck that, and they lobby against it. They pay a bunch of politicians. The politicians go, we can't do that, Something to campaign against. I'm not going to go into, you know, the nuance of what, you know, why they won't make healthcare free, because I think it's very obvious to anyone who pays attention why they won't make healthcare free. One, they say we can't afford it, but that's just not true. And two, that doesn't, you know, then they don't have something to lobby on. If they accomplish that task, they have to move on to the next thing, right? So it's always about having something to not only just campaign against, but also having like a reason and a point of contention for societal. And this is a really good point that Dave Smith has made in the past, and I will make here, and I think really speaks volumes to what we're dealing with politically right now, is that when you're failing on policy, you pivot to a culture war. And the reality is, they're pivoting and causing like race to become such a dividing line, and they're trying to pivot poor versus rich, and this affordability and all this stuff. It's like, dude, they're all responsible. There's not a single individual in there that's not responsible for this happening. And as much as I love certain congressmen, Rand Paul, Thomas Massie, I appreciate Rokahana for working with Thomas Massie. Excuse me. At this point, could you believe that anyone is uncorruptible in the system if they got into the position of power? I love Thomas Massie as an individual, and I think he's a great man. If he got a presidency, right? I've advocated for this, to have a presidency, for him to put a bid in for president, because I think he would really pull people in, no matter how much AIPAC or the fucking Jewish lobby don't want him to be in, because he doesn't, all that bullshit. But is he wholly uncorruptible? Not saying personally like he doesn't have some things to work on, or some things that maybe someone didn't want to know about him, although he's one of the most honest and open congressmen we probably ever had outside of Ron Paul. But the reality is, does you kind of wonder, and I don't think it's fair to him, but it is fair to me to wonder if any of these politicians, can be wholly honest and about the American people and be America first and never have self-interest as the focal point of what they're doing and who they are. And they say, they'll talk a good game and they'll say all that, but it's like, at the end of the day, do I really know? I don't know. I mean, Thomas Massie probably has the best track record, and I'll never stop talking about him because I think he's the best congressman we got. But you got one guy. There's 434 other House members, 100 senators, a president, a cabinet that mostly disagree with him. Dude, good lord. So it's one of those things where I just find that it's so difficult to trust anybody, at least in positions of power. And like I said, it's probably unfair to Thomas Massie. And as much as I would love to see him get, a presidential bid and become president, I don't know if he wants that. And then they're trying to take him out of his seat right now, which I don't think will happen. But he said he's done if that happens, which is, that's terrible for the American people. I mean, we're talking all the way downhill. If we don't have at least one person in there who's willing to fight for the American people's rights. But anyway, back to the socialism thing is like, I don't, what thing has government made better? I mean, really, give me something that the government has made better. Because I can't find anything the government ever makes better. They've not improved people's lives. They've desecrated and destroyed California with large government. I mean, you can look at it. The population growth was, 1% over the last couple of years? And they're, 34% of the new jobs or whatever are from government? They're just making stuff up on top of the homeless problem, all the fraud, waste. I mean, and look, you could say like, oh, it's blue cities. It seems like it's blue states, stuff like that. And maybe, the Democrats are more in the laundering and fraud. But, dude, the state I live in taxes people out of the ass for the state tax for no fucking reason. And it's like, where'd all the money go? Why is my state committing money to fucking Israel? How does that make any fucking sense? How does that serve me as an American or a resident of this state? know? And the more, like, you give this socialist idealism to people, like, okay, just for an instance, right? Wherever you implement these things where you take 60% of someone's income. I use Bill Maher as a reference, who, by the way, Bill Maher has been a liberal and a staunch liberal his entire life. And he was on his own show complaining that he's paying 60% in tax. And I'm sorry, whether I like Bill Maher or dislike Bill Maher, agree or disagree with Bill Maher, he shouldn't be paying 60% of the money he earns doing what he's done, which is, you know, social commentary, political commentary, you know, comedy, all these things that have provided entertainment to people who do like Bill Maher. He shouldn't be giving that away to a government that's $40 trillion in debt, who's asking for fucking donations to try to pay down the debt. Hey, how about you stop sending money to every other fucking place on the planet but to the American people and the systems with which we uphold? I mean, you know, you say Social Security is like this great thing, but I don't even think my generation will see Social Security. I don't think it'll be a thing. You know, we're paying now for the people then. We're paying now for the old people now when it's supposed to be for us later. But that's just not the reality. They keep dipping into your, you know, entitlements. And I'd rather not pay a Social Security tax. I'd rather take every dollar or cent that I put into Social Security over a yearly basis, keep it for myself, put it into an index fund or a mutual fund, and grow it in the stock market myself, or buy crypto with it. I mean, something that has like a return on investment, not where they can fucking take my money now, go do bullshit with it, and then later, you know, at some point there's gonna be a fucking fallout, and we're all gonna be pissed. Because what we did to provide for the people that exist now, the most selfish fucking generation of individuals, by the way, which I covered in my last video, if you want to go watch that, you know, about the boomers. And I said enough on them in a 35-minute tirade. But, you know, I'm paying for these people to be able to live, which I'm not arguing that they shouldn't be able to live. But how'd you fumble? How did you fuck up the most prosperous time in America? How are you not prosperous? There should be no one from the boomer generation that is poor. I don't understand. Like, now it makes sense because of inflation and everything else, but you guys experienced insane growth, exponential growth that should have left you with something, anything. But the amount of, like, older people I see who have nothing, like, what did you do all those years? You put too much trust in the government. You put too much trust in the systems at hand and didn't put enough trust in yourself and your faith in yourself. And now you're staring down the barrel of the gun, you know, wondering what the fuck am I supposed to do, because I barely live off Social Security and I'm too old to work. And me and my wife are combating that. You know, we've got retirement funds and stuff like that, and we're pretty young for it. So it's like, hopefully I live another 50 years and I retire in 30 and I get to, you know, really enjoy myself for 25, I guess. But socialism will not give you that. Will not give you that. They'll take your money. They'll keep it for themselves. I mean, look at COVID. And it's so funny, I think, to me, because you have people like a Hassan Piker, for reference, who's just a fucking retarded lefty. And, you know, what was on Dave's show, he did something with the New York Times, and they were doing like some kind of podcast, and they were talking about stealing shit and what shit was okay to steal and shit that isn't okay to steal. And it's just like the whole, like, I don't agree with stealing of any kind. And I'm not even arguing that I've never done it. You know, I think all of us have been down bad enough where maybe we rang up something at the grocery store for something different than what it was, you know. Mine was taking, like, pre-made sandwiches when we really couldn't afford food that well, or, you know, didn't have the time or resources to make food, and ringing them up as bananas. It was a classic kind of thing I always fucking did. Was it right? Probably not. Did it get me through? Sure. I still paid for it. I just, you know, 90% discount, if you will. But either way, I don't think that stealing is the way to level the playing field, because you only end up hurting the people who already can't afford stuff. Because as stuff gets stolen, right, then that's factored into the price, and the prices will go up. And not only that, but then you get these like prison looking fucking dystopian buildings, you know, like CVS's that have just cases that protect the deodorant and the toothpaste and whatever other things that you need to have that you got to call somebody over to get. I mean, the condoms are fucking locked up at Walmart. I wonder why. Not like y'all are using them anyway, but still, you're stealing them enough that they got to fucking be locked up. And I get it. You know, times are tough and like shit like that is, you know, these aren't necessities, so I can't factor it into my budget, but you know, with sticky fingers I can make it work. But the reality is that you shouldn't have to do that. And if you were able to keep more of your money, you know, less money going to social programs. And I personally have been on this train forever that there should be a census every year of what are you willing to pay for. Maybe you fill it out every year when you do your you know, your employer taxes. When you fill it, I can't remember what it is. I-9? I think that's what it is, an I-9. You know, you talk about what withholdings and all that, and there'll be separate options for things that you want to pay into. But we should not have federal income tax. Okay? That's a load of horse shit. Okay, we didn't have that prior to 1913. Thank you, Rockefeller and company. Fucking piece of shit. But we should not have federal income tax. You should not have property tax. Okay? The government does not own the fucking land, and I'm sick of everyone pretending that the government owns this fucking land. We own this land. Okay? You gotta pay property tax to the state of Indiana because fucking what? Somebody drew some squiggly lines and you happen to reside in them, and now I gotta pay these motherfuckers so I can keep my house? Suck my fucking dick. That's bullshit. And what does property tax even go to? Does anybody know what property tax ended up benefiting? You could say schools, but I don't see education scores going up. I don't see us improving our standing in the world as far as mathematics, science, English scores, stuff like that. I mean, we're still not top 5. So does it really fucking matter? The public schools aren't getting... It isn't... The thing is this is not a fucking money issue. It's a fucking corruption issue. It's a fraud issue. Waste. Stupidity. These people in charge are failing us because they aren't smart enough to realize that we're not that dumb. That we're not dumb enough to just roll... Well, okay... Most of us aren't dumb enough. Some of you are. I'm just going to be frank about that. Some of you are that fucking dumb, which is fine. You're probably not watching this video. Probably not listening to anybody, actually, with an IQ above, like, 75, for the most part. There's a few of you out there who have an IQ around, like, 90 who think you're in the 120s and say shit that just doesn't make any fucking sense at all. But it's like, you can't... You want everything to be free. How the fuck do you think that works? I mean, really break it down for me. I want someone to sit with me and explain to me how everything can fucking be free. And it be fair and equitable. And that you feel like you're not getting gypped. And that someone, the person who's in charge of distributing the fucking product, isn't going to keep more for themselves. People are not trustworthy. Maybe your neighbor is, but your congressman's not. Your senator's not. Like, I hate to tell you, but these motherfuckers don't care about you and they don't care about me. And they haven't for a really long fucking time. I mean, my dad was telling me the whole time I was growing up, the government's corrupt, they're doing all kinds of bullshit. I think I've said this on the channel before, but I had arguments with dudes in high school telling them, I'm like, dude, if you think the government's not taking the drugs that they get and reselling them, which, by the way, they did in the 80s with the crack epidemic and then with opioids and fucking poppy fields in Afghanistan, and we could keep fucking going. We could keep rolling it. You think they didn't take any of the fucking coke from fucking Pablo? Like, and not our government specifically, but governments in general. Come on. Use your fucking brain for a little bit. And it's great that people are waking up to it, but I'm pretty sure I've said it before too, and I'll say it again, you sometimes have to wonder if it's too late. Is it too late to fix this problem? Has our government gotten too big where we can no longer have that input? Where we no longer have actual dictation on how to change things? And we're hoping that these elected officials will change things for us. But as we've stated, they're not worth trusting. You know, you're a fucking rock. Hard place. You. So, there's choices to be made here. And, you know, I'm really heavily advocating that we need more free market. We need less government intervention, if I could say it correctly, and more free market. Less social programs, or at least social programs that operate efficiently. People, I see the fucking thing before I get on here, and people are like, because SNAP and EBT in the state of Texas, and I saw Texas specifically as the example, but it's going to happen in other ones as part of the Maha movement, are taking away candy and sugared sodas, or sugared drinks in general. And they're like, people are so obsessed with what other people do. Hey, I'm going to lay this out super fucking clear for you. You aren't using your fucking money to buy it. So guess what? The person who gives you that money can tell you what to do with it. And that's socialism, you stupid fuck. Like, how do you not grasp that concept? It's the same thing as when your parents would tell you as a teenager, you live under my roof, you follow my rules. So then you're like, fuck, I can't wait to get out and create my own rules. And some of you really botched that. You live disgustingly. You're gross fucking humans. But then some of us were like, you know, teetering a little bit. I was a teeterer. I kind of had some understanding, but not a full understanding. And thankfully, I figured it out. And then some people go out and they create like really good environments for themselves and shit like that. But it's all on a dictation of your own, right? That feeling of getting out and being on your own and going like, fuck yeah, this is mine. I can do whatever I want with it. I clean it. I fucking cook in it. I can fucking shit on the couch if I want. Like, this is mine. Whatever I want to do, this is for me. Your parents were the government, okay? You are the person trying to get away from the government to the free market system. This is the best fucking analogy I can give you that everyone can relate to. And once you got out from under your parents and you had that free market system, you had all the opportunity to do whatever the fuck you wanted. You could fuck who you want. You could eat what you want. Stay up as late as you want. Watch what you want. I mean, it's all freedom. And if you're someone who's like, oh, I didn't enjoy that, you're a fucking weirdo or you're a fucking liar. Like, there's no other way for us to exist as people in prosperity without this free market and the freest of markets. We need it to be entirely free, not a free system with chains. And so that's what I guess I came on here to say. It's just like, stop with the socialism stuff. We all grew up in a socialist system. It's called being a child. Your parents dictate what you do, and they might give you a little more leeway. And, you know, some of them are like a benevolent dictatorship, like, oh, you can do whatever you want. Da, 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 da. Some of them in this type of, you know, environment we have where it's just like screens, have like anarchy, which is the way too much freedom. Like, you need some rules, and you need a base, and you need to be able to like have people reined in. We have to have laws. We have to have, you know, consequences for actions. But as far as like economics and like people's public choices, you should be able to do whatever the fuck you want to do. And no one should be able to tell me what I need to do with my money or who's going to take my money or anything of that nature. It's the same thing as like if you're getting money for food stamps, guess what? You don't get to choose what the fuck they go for. You know, there's a reason that WIC, Provided to Mothers, has a fucking set list of things you can buy on it. Why? Because that's what it's for. It's for nutrition. It's for you to get what you need. Basics to live. Now, I'll argue that our bread is terrible, so I don't know if I would agree that needs to be on WIC. But regardless, it's something that will keep you alive. And so, you know, you should be taking the opportunity with food stamps to be healthy. It's not your money. So you don't have to be as money conscious about it, right? But then you just see these mad, obese families that are taking advantage of food stamps while also destroying themselves internally. And then you're like, oh, I don't understand why you care about white people, because then that's how you get fucking, you know, adolescent diabetes or type 2 as a fucking adult because you're drinking soda and eating bagel bites all fucking day, you fat piece of shit. And listen, I have my moments. I have my moments where I conduct big activities, okay? That shit happens. Like, all of us, like me and my wife, we went out, had celebratory dinner. I had pancakes for dinner. Guess what? I don't feel bad about it because 90% of the time, I'm taking care of myself. Going to the gym, I'm eating pretty healthy, I'm hitting my protein, like all these things that are necessary, and I exercise 4 to 5 times a week, plus I work a physical job. So it's like, I may not require as much discipline as someone else, you know, but the reality is that you need to have discipline for yourself because that will translate in all things. Once you have discipline in your diet, you'll have discipline to build yourself economically. You'll stop needing food stamps because you'll be able to, hey, I'm not here to put anyone down, but maybe you don't have 5 kids you can't provide for. Stop fucking everybody in the neighborhood. It's just a thought. Yeah, you have freedom of choice, but it doesn't come without consequence. And then I and the other taxpayers are supposed to foot the bill on your consequences that you can't handle because you made shit choices? I just don't think that makes any sense. Everybody needs a helping hand, and I'm not advocating against that, but too many of you think that the helping hand is one that you should just be able to hold on to and never let go. And that's not how a functional society works. That's a dumb fucking idea. So, not only with the socialistic stuff are you burdening food and stuff like that, you're creating unhealthy environments which then burden the healthcare system, which is kind of what I was getting at with the type 2 diabetes and all that, and heart problems, kidney disease, because all the medications, the dialysis. Both my fucking grandparents have dialysis. Both my grandpas are dead, but both my grandmothers have kidney dialysis for medications. And it's like between the unhealthy foods, the medications, all the lack of exercise and like well-being and taking care of yourself, the fact that half of you never leave the fucking house, and you wonder why I don't want you to benefit from my hard work. I don't know. Ask yourself, do you really fucking deserve it? Because I'd argue that a lot of you fucking don't. But anyway, pivoting to other things, we can go into some actual political shit. They tried to shoot Trump for a third time. Three times. And I don't know, this one, if you see the video and like the way it all went down and everything, kind of seemed like, I don't want to say a false flag, that doesn't make sense, but just staged, little fake. They weren't at him, they were just in his vicinity. Just seemed like something for everybody to talk about and kind of a rallying point for whatever, MAGA base that he's got left. I want to be clear that I'm not making light of a situation of someone, attempting to assassinate the president. I don't give a shit if it was Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton or whoever the fuck it might be. I'm not going to advocate for the assassination of a political figure, any political figure. So you're not going to get me on board with that. Guess what? People don't forget how a lot of people celebrated Charlie Kirk's death, and whether you liked him or not, that guy died in front of his fucking family. Shot in the fucking neck or whatever happened. There's a lot of speculation on what actually happened. But regardless, he was killed in cold blood in front of his daughters. Young daughters. I'd say his wife, but she don't seem to really give a fuck, so we'll leave that alone. But those kids will be traumatized with that for the rest of their fucking lives. And they're going to turn 18, 20 someday, and it's going to come flooding back to them. And it'll be all this trauma and shit they kind of repressed because they were so young, they didn't know how to deal with it, so they just locked it away in the vault. So, yeah, you guys are fucking disgusting for that. I still sit on that. Almost probably, 10 months later? I think he was shot in, September? So, 8, 9 months? Yeah, you're still fucking disgusting for that. And what are you gonna do? Listen, I've been on this page criticizing the fuck out of this guy because he's a big fat fucking retard and he sucks at his job. And yeah, we voted for him and it was bad. I'm not with the people saying Kamala Harris would have been better. The only argument I heard it from a buddy of mine not that long ago, was that Kamala Harris would have been so bad that we would have had to get a good candidate. But I don't necessarily agree with that because we thought Trump was a good candidate. So, like, our evaluation's shit too. We don't know what the fuck a good candidate. We just like a guy who talks well and says some cool stuff. And then he got shot in the ear, and we were like, oh, they're trying to kill him. Clearly, he's got to be the right choice. They're trying to take him out. And now we don't know if that was fucking real or not. I mean, if you want to lay all the cards on the table, like, who knows if that was legitimate. And so, I said it in one of my most recent episodes, but it's just like, you just gotta, I don't know. I'm not participating in the voting thing right now. Maybe if Thomas Massey, I'll throw a vote in on Thomas Massey. But God, dude, my district here, where I live, has been playing YouTube ads, and don't get me wrong, some of them are funny. But just YouTube ads, like political ads for the midterms, like fucking crazy. Dog, the midterms not for another, 6 months. Relax. I don't give a fuck. I'm not voting anyway, but still, I don't give a fuck about that right now. So, I don't know, man. And especially when they throw in the stuff and they're like, oh, it's endorsed by Trump. I'm like, that's fucking, if anybody has a brain, they're going to tell you, like, oh, well. It probably means I'm not going to vote for that person. And listen, I know people that are still just staunch on the Trump train. My buddy's telling me his mom, who's like a real Southern lady, is like, hey, day Obama's going to get arrested for treason. Like, that's not happening. And I'll tell you another thing. I don't think that this ceasefire fucking means shit. I think that a ceasefire, there's no talks going on. And that's generally what a ceasefire is for negotiations. I think he just said stop bombing because we don't have enough bombs to, we're just trying to restock. That's what it seems like to me. And just, some time to replenish the munitions before we continue to blow up the countries in the Middle East. Specifically, Iran. But then, what happens when they destroy more important oil infrastructure? I don't know where we go with that at all. Everyone I listen to is like, I hope he takes the off-ramp. I'm like, the only off-ramp is like, well, we initiated regime change. You guys got to do something about it. We're getting the fuck out of here. Meanwhile, they spend over probably $100 billion so far, pissed off a bunch of allies, completely changed the global perception of our power, and their in turn on how much power the dollar will have, whether or not the petrodollar will continue in the future. I mean, there's so many unknowns surrounding with just this situation that's been created, and the dude just constantly just makes shit up. I mean, how we wouldn't even if unless he, Iran, Pakistan, who's also been involved in the negotiations, China, Russia, and maybe a sixth country all came out and were like, there's been a deal, the strait is open, then I'll believe it. But this guy is fucking, the strait's open, and Iran's like, it's not. And he's like, you motherfuckers. And they're like, throwing their hands up, like, well, you did this. And I can't even blame him. And we're in, and the thing is, I don't know how this is 10D chess, by the way. If someone could explain the 10D chess moves that this guy is making, because he started a war, tore up the JCPOA, which wasn't amazing from my understanding, but it was decent and something to be built on, right? So, there's that. And then, sorry, I had a distraction there in the background, but he then initiated this war just so we could be in a worse spot than we were at the start of it, trying to get the strait open, which was open before the war started, and our global and political reputations have been highly damaged. And the power construct of the planet is probably going to shift quite significantly. Like, hey, you can't come invade us. But our days of telling people what to do, they're probably over. At least, significant portion. That's probably over. So, I regret voting for him. It was a bad idea. But at the same time, it is what it is, and we live with those choices. You ask yourself, like, could I do anything differently? And I don't think so. I don't think it would have mattered what I did. But either way, we'll just have to wait and see how this pans out, right? Hopefully, at least we can get the Strait of Hormuz open. I'm tired of fucking paying $4 for gas. I don't know about you. That shit's getting fucking old real quick. But anyway, that's all I got for tonight. Appreciate you guys tuning in, listening to the rant. As always, like, comment, subscribe, share, tell people about it. Don't tell people about it. I don't care. Whatever. I'll see you later.